Welcome to the Irresistible Workplace Initiative podcast, the place where leaders come to learn how to create a workplace where people would be crazy to leave. Join your hosts, Holley and Tony.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Irresistible Workplace Initiative podcast, the place where we talk about how to create a culture and a workplace that people will be crazy to leave. And I'm Holley Potts, and I've got Tony McConnell, as always.
Hey, Holley.
And then, Tony, I'm going to let you introduce our guest for the day. You guys have already met and talked a little bit, and how your paths intersect and how we ended up here today.
Well, Greg Pihs, and Greg's the author of The Power in the Pain, and he's also an NLP coach and does certification, and he has a lot of things he does. He's a local Murfreesboro resident, and he'll take you on a firewalking trip and help you reframe stuff. So, Greg, we appreciate you coming, and Greg's going to be one of our speakers at our upcoming Resiliency workshop on July 14th, and Greg really helps people, reframe their past experiences, and help them to be very resilient. And when we first started talking about resiliency, our podcast master here, Trent, said, "Hey, you got to meet Greg." So, so I started looking around on the internet, and I'm like, I got to get me some of this Greg. So we've met and talked, and I think, we share a lot of common analogies on life and some philosophies on how to build a resilient life, really resilient life, because it's what it is. You got to be resilient, Greg, through every part of your life, and not just part of it. Kind of like with the culture in an organization, you can't just talk about culture. You got to do culture, and you got to, all your all your words got to speak the same languages. All your actions got to speak the same languages. And so, Greg, we really appreciate you having you here, and we're, like we said, we want to focus on building resilient leaders. Because you got to have a resilient leader before you can build a resilient organization and team.
I love what you guys are doing, and I'm excited to be here with you guys. My passion is really around, as you were kind of cueing into it, it's like, man, it's a lot of you guys going on. It's really, my focus is helping adults rewrite the meaning of childhood trauma. This is really what my focus is. And I say obvious for those that have experienced trauma, to get through that, we're going to have some resilience.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, Trent seen that connection, and when speaking with you guys and what you're doing with resilient leaders, I'm excited to be involved in it. In your newsletter you were talking about, it's during times of challenge that leadership gets exposed.
That's right. It's not when you build it, it's when it's exposed.
Yeah. And, the idea of like a resilient leader, like I'll suggest that, what do you guys think? Like the opposition of leadership, I'm going to suggest would be like victim mentality.
Oh yeah.
So like either like we're the victim or we are leading what's happening. And in order to be a resilient leader, we have to be able to practice when it's not hard.
That's right.
So that when it's hard and the exposure comes, we have to be able to practice when it's not hard in as many situations as possible to be the leader. And if we're going to be the leader, we could say it in a different form. In every situation that we experience in our life, how can we live it so that we are not the victim?
Yeah.
Whatever takes place.
And, like you said, when times get hard, that's when, the real person comes out, and an organization reacts, and picks up on what that leader's laying down when the shit hits the fan. Excuse my language, but that's the best term for it. When the shit hits the fan is when people true colors usually come out, and you can't fake it. You can't fake it. You can't hide it from your organization, from your team members, your friends, your family.
Yeah.
At all.
I look at it like the words that I use is like, we have a certain capacity.
Not today,
and to which the capacity we built For those of us that desire more, we are extending ourselves past the capacity we've built. And that's who we want to become. And as long as everything's comfortable enough, we can behave like that new person. But when the shit hits the fan, we'll always go to where we know we have capacity, which is our most built up exposure till now.
Barbecue.
I've got a question. So I know words matter, right? And how, just define it. Like, how would you define resiliency? It's a word that we can easily toss around like trust and all the other words, Tony, we've talked about. So just diving a little deeper into what is resilience. Like, how would you define it?
It's a good, I'm thinking about this as you say it. I don't have an answer. That's a really good question. So I'm going to think out loud.
Sure. Yeah.
So if being asked, what is resilience? In some way, what I'm picturing right now in my mind is like the ability to bounce back from temporary defeat. Which in life, I mean, we're going to experience that over and over. So I think that resiliency, like what is resilience? That's really, really good, like defining terms. What are we talking about here? I think it's our ability to continually bounce back. And I want to like add a little more gravity to it, that those bounce backs could be big situations. We know those we have to bounce back from. But like the most minor things in the morning with our spouse or our kids, like that's where we're really setting up or creating the capacity for resiliency, is like the little things. Like we know we got to fight on the big things, but the repetition of the little things, I think, builds that capacity out.
It's like building the muscle memory kind of being able to always reframe things as a challenge and not a setback.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the big things, especially in an organization and as a leader, is you have to look for, okay, this sucks, but what good can we get out of it?
Yeah. I mean, and yeah, the lens of what good can we get out of it at any time, like to solve a problem is to introduce a new one or cause a new one.
Yep.
If we're going to be the leader, we are going to be willing to cause new problems.
It's true.
And so in that, like, because fear is built in, like, if I make this decision, I may cause this. The fear is built in that, but the resilient leader understands I'm going to cause something. And we'll address that too.
I mean, you're not always going to do 100% correct. You know? I have failed numerous times. And I have also excelled numerous times. So, you know, I think you just got to get one up. You got to be one up on the bad.
Well, you know, that kind of reminds me of the saying, failure way to success.
That's right.
And resiliency, back to resiliency.
Yeah.
Yeah. I use some examples. So I have a daughter playing volleyball right now, and it's like such an intense sport where every mistake is a point. You know, I played basketball. Like, I could make a turnover and they didn't necessarily score off it, but every mistake is a point. And so this word gets thrown around a lot of like, this part helps us learn resiliency, you know, because you have to turn around and be ready for the very next thing. And, you know, you were talking about the little things that life brings along, and it kind of made me wonder for you, because you do have a passion around people reframing their past and trauma and all that. Is this something that did you learn resiliency the hard way? Were you taught it? Like, how did it become sort of a passion for you?
I think like
relative humidity from Eastern Montana.
I would even suggest like it's a gift.
Yeah.
You know, the power and the pain.
Yeah.
From childhood,
Sacramento.
like when I look back, I had an abusive childhood, and when I look back, like I remember, like when I think about my mind frame the entire time, like I was trying to make the people happy so it would stop, and like I was always like trying to get to the next positive place. To say naturally, I'm not sure. That's just where my mind was going. And then, you know, as a young adult, I, for a long period of time, I mean, roughly until my 30s, I lived on the victim side of things. I knew I was resilient, but when people would try to speak life into the potential that I had, I would try to get them to understand what I had been through. Eventually I crossed paths with enough mentors, tools, books, modalities, and
Yes.
started consciously understanding how to apply resiliency.
Yeah. So that's pretty vulnerable. You just launched into that. So I think there's a connection between vulnerability and being resilient. So kind of dig into that a little bit, because I think people are, because perfectionism, keeps us so like, oh, like you're not going to get it right every time, but people think they can.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, until you embrace it, there's got to be some vulnerability and some acceptance of, okay, yeah, that happened, but so how would those, like, how maybe if somebody isn't willing to be vulnerable, how does that impact their ability to be resilient?
That's good.
I had to think about, it took me a second to get to the question, but
Yeah, the vulnerability.
Best.
I think there's definitely a big impact in the vulnerability aspect, because like, imagine if someone, I'm not sure if I shared this one with you the other day, Tony, but like, imagine someone you didn't know walked up to you and balled up a piece of paper about the size of a Post-it note, maybe a little larger, and they handed it to you and they walked away.
All the
Without any further information, we could suggest that you were given someone's trash
yeah.
and you didn't deserve it. And you're now the victim of this trash, and you have to take care of this trash.
storage system.
And going forward, telling that story to everyone,
Like we can.
it's like unconsciously empowering to us, like proven, like, see, we have a badge, something happened.
Mm-hmm.
In order to be resilient there, like in that same story, what if I told you they gave you a $117 million winning lottery ticket?
Pushing off to the east
We didn't know if it was or wasn't before,
and our
but we have to be willing to go back and visit these moments that we feel originally like just maybe disgusted by, and go back and be vulnerable enough to relive it, to learn what we didn't learn the first time we went through that experience. Every time we have an experience in life, whatever the experience is, I go grab the door, I twist the handle, I walk out. Well, I learned that when I see a handle, I can twist them.
not
If we learn something that benefits us, we have no trauma. We don't need resilience.
So learning.
The learning.
Yeah.
But we got to be vulnerable enough to go back and say to ourselves, like, my winning lottery ticket is in there somewhere.
Yeah. It reminds me of, I know I'm not going to quote this right, but Mary Oliver is one of my favorite poets. And she said a very short poem that was like, someone once handed me a box of darkness. I learned this too was a gift.
I love that. They're
Isn't that good?
That's so good.
But sometimes it takes some time, and some reframing to look back and go, wow, that, all the worst things that have happened to me so far have led me to where I am now. More than the easy things, I guess.
Everything, yeah.
Yeah.
Our biggest gifts are in those moments.
Yeah, and what leaders
and
who aren't resilient, and all of us, even resilient leaders,
and you'll see when we're live.
will always, like you said, default back to the natural capacity, what you feel comfortable with as your capacity. And if you have built that capacity, strengthened it, throughout your life and throughout your leadership journey,
It's begin to
you may not dig as close into yourself. And what I have seen leaders done, and I have done myself, is when the going gets tough sometimes, especially if it's a very quick, something that happens really fast, and you're not really planning for it, is you shut everybody else out. Like if you have a team that you've been relying on, you shut them out.
under dignity.
Well, then you also shut out all that brain trust. Then it's just on you and your, whatever your self-image is, which is probably not always the greatest, So I think, really good resilient leaders know that they don't have all the answers. Which good leaders always know they don't have all the answers, but resilient leaders know that they can't do it all themselves. Now they can go out and they can beat the drum and they can show up at an 11 when when everybody else is showing up at a 6. But you'll get, if your team knows it, hey, I'm going to sit out here in the rain with y'all and we're going to embrace this suck, you're going to get a better product, and the product being whatever it takes to survive that season. If you're in the construction industry and mortgage rates have gone through the roof and the economy is tanked and gas prices have doubled and everybody's watching the news, or we have a pandemic or something like that. I'm sorry, pandemic or something like that.
It's a suspect.
You your team can get you through that.
When, a big part, like I use the word capacity, but same vibe. We have that vibe of, like, a lot of times humans, not just leaders, but humans, we may be unknown, so we're just unaware of our problem, and who cares, okay? Or we have the known unknown, like, I don't know how to fix this, but I know it's a problem, it's in my life. And in leadership, like, we'll ask, like, how do I solve this problem? But really what you guys are doing, this is the magic. Like, how do you solve that problem? It's not about that day and that problem. We have to go back and build the capacity. When that day arrives again, you'll forget to do the problem.
Right.
We got to build that capacity and the small things behind the scenes.
And when the problem, a problem or an event, perceived negative event, rears its ugly head, and you have really worked on your culture and worked on your team and worked on your processes, and you really look at that as a chance to say, hey, we've done all this work for the last X number of years, starting with a BCWI survey in 2019, and we started dressing stuff, and now we're doggone.
Yeah.
It worked. It paid off. That's when the payoff comes, and and it doesn't take a lot of those really good payoffs to go, dadgummit, I got to give me some more of that. We got to keep that going.
I always suggest, I think, if we go all in on anything, running, dieting, discipline, whatever, like, if we go all in, I have found in my experience, like, unless I'm unique or something, so much faster than I ever, like, imagined, momentum will set in for us. I mean, it can be in days. Whereas, like, we can think, oh, it's going to take weeks or months or years. The journey continues on with whatever it is. But, like, if you go all in and, like, burn the ships, if you burn the ship mentality.
Burn the ship, that's right.
Yeah, if you go in with that mentality, like, what I find in my life is, like, it's like days later, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I was doing that. I can't believe I was doing it that way. And, momentum starts to set in. It starts to be empowering. You start to realize the results, and it's like, well, I wouldn't want to do anything else now but this.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about fear too, because I think fear plays into it for people as far as how does it keep somebody from experiencing the learning, and experiencing resilience? Do you find that when you're working with people, coaching people or whatever, that fear just like crops up? Because it's tied to the victim side a little bit of, do you find that's a big barrier, and what do you do?
Yeah, fear. So the first thing that I talk about in fear is, like, first thing, like, we got to love fear. Like, before we do anything else, we got to, like, love fear.
Yeah, like befriend it somehow.
Yes, like, not like it's okay. We're not going to, like, the whole idea of, like, false evidence not appearing real. Like, fear is there and is there to serve us. And, like, when we love it, we won't have the same reaction to it. And the image that I share with people is, like, imagine your fear was the most expensive, highly trained, loyal guard dog. And now that highly trained, loyal guard dog, every once in a while, it's going to alert you. And if you go up and check, it's going to be a squirrel.
Yeah.
But don't be mad at your guard dog. It's doing its job.
Yeah.
So, like, my goal when I'm working with clients or people around fear is, like, fear is not something to be ignored or it's going to get louder.
Yeah.
It is there literally trying to serve you. So I think the first step every time with fear is gratitude. Like, oh, I'm so glad I'm being alerted to this. Because, like, depending on the amount of fear we experience, we start to release adrenaline and cortisol. This is so we can lift the car or whatever the thing is. And gratitude starts to release our serotonin and dopamine, which is counteracting that. Because if we get too much cortisol, adrenaline, those hormones, we'll act irrational.
Fight or flight.
Fight or flight will kick in. And once that happens, it's kind of, we need a pattern interrupt, But just prior to that, if we can get into gratitude, like, I'm so glad I'm being alerted, we can alter the chemical balance inside. Now, okay, cool, I was alerted. The next thing is, like, now let's look at this from a logical standpoint. And is a boundary needed? We might be being alerted of a squirrel, no boundaries needed. We just move on. Or the dog might be alerting me and there's someone in the front yard and it's 10 o'clock at night. Okay, we just need a boundary right now. We're all good. I'm so thankful I was alerted because of my fear.
Look at it.
like my goal is to build that relationship with people with fear.
Yeah, because I think the reason we have been talking about this topic for our gathering that's coming up is a lot of people are experiencing fear, and I would say they're not reframing it like that quite yet. So maybe that's somewhere we can go, on this day. But looking at, I mean, it's coming our way all the time, things to be afraid of, But when you think about business conditions and the market and people who've taken risk financially and other things to do their business and all of that, there's plenty of reasons to be afraid, but that's why we chose it. It's like, wow, people are feeling fearful right now in general. So.
And, like in business, like the idea of like, because a lot of times in business, we can get like, we can get conditioned that like, shut it down, there's no fear, move on.
Yeah.
Well, when we start to really face economic shifts and things of that nature, it's like, well, hold on, do I actually just ignore this? Well, no, but it doesn't mean we may or may not take action.
Mm-hmm.
But realizing, like, even in business, when I'm feeling this fear, that means it's time to work on my business and not end.
Yes. Oh, it's so good. Wait. Say that again. Seriously, repeat that, because people tend to do the opposite. Like, this is not the time that I can pull away and work on it because I've got to do all this.
I got to make the widgets, not the people.
So say that again and flesh that out a little bit. Why is it the time?
Yeah. So when we're experiencing that fear in business and we're thinking like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I should go forward with this venture or whatever that thing is, this is the time to pull out and work on the business. And like what I suggest to people is when we are working on our business, this is the time to poke all of the holes.
Yes.
And like plug them and see if you can poke them again.
Yeah.
And wherever you decide that now I'm taking this model forth, then we go in the business. The only option here is believing that it works. So we can be a cynic, but we have to do that working on. And so we're allowed to evaluate everything working on. We're allowed to be the pessimist, the
play
realist,
out all the scenarios.
All the scenarios. And then once I select one and I come over here, by a choice, I am choosing to believe this definitely is going to work. There's no other way around it. Like, I'll have to be surprised at the end if it doesn't.
Yeah. Because, Tony, wouldn't you say, like, a lot of people that we invite to join a peer group or be at the table, it's like, well, and then there's this fear thing. I can't do it right now because I'm scrambling. I don't money.
I just got to make. I don't have time. I got to make the widget.
Yeah.
I don't have time to figure out how to make a better widget or to get the right person to make the widget so I can go sell the widget. And I think, it really plays in good to the discussion we had a while back about the leaders having peer groups and leaders building their own network and to help them, because like as you're working on the business, sometimes it's good to have somebody that is not even in the same industry, to give you feedback and to help. And I think that's one of the itches that we've scratched for a lot of people with our table groups is, we've put leaders of different kind of organizations together because it's lonely at the top. And when you can put people together that it does help build resilience, and it helps hold each other accountable, because accountability is also a key to resilience. I think I've always felt that, you will take your resilience and your personal resiliency a lot more seriously if there's some accountability on it.
I agree. Absolutely. If there's no accountability, it means it's all okay anyway. There's nothing to rebound.
That's right. That's true.
Yeah.
To do this weekend.
I think when you were sharing about like the people with like not enough money or building the widget, like we talked about like always start from their model of the world. So like if let's just say someone said, I don't have the money right now to do this. Well, let's go from your model of the world. In your model of the world, you don't have the money to do this. So the other option would be you having the money to do this. If you had the money to do this, I'd love to still work with you, but why would you need to do this? And you're on the exact side of the equation that needs to do this. And like really just, taking it for the widget, like, the idea of like, I just need to build a widget. Oh, just go build it then and then come back.
Holly and I were talking this morning. Of something that we kind of leaned into heavily is that every time you say yes, you should write down the stuff that it made you have to say no to.
That's good.
And every time you say no, what are the things that you get to say yes to?
You get to say yes to.
That's good.
Yes.
That's good.
Yeah, because I feel like it's sort of, you think about preventative, like your health. Okay, I can spend my time and invest all the things to get where I want to go, or I can end up where I don't want to be and then have to come back and spend the money and invest the time. And you know what I mean? So it's kind of, when we're thinking about these leaders, I just can't stress how important it is to go, you just do it. You just do it. And then you get to get in a safe environment where you play out all the scenarios. And like you said, then you make a choice. But people are very hesitant. I think it's just fear. It's maybe not understanding what fear can do.
Well, and another thing, like fear is definitely in there, but there's like a different level of fear in like, I'm rolling in business and I'm afraid of what's going to come next. Versus like a suggestion of like, do I take this decision to do this thing? There's still fear there. Like, what if it doesn't work or whatever the case may be? But I think for everyone listening, and then with you guys as well, some of your leaders are going to benefit from, it sounds crazy, but like asking them and having them say out loud, like, what are you trying to make happen right now? Like raw. What do you want to happen in the next year? Like, like May 2027 is going to arrive. If you had your way, what are we trying to create? Because a lot of times we started with a destination and we got pulled off track and we never reset a destination and they're not even sure where they're going. They just want more.
Or they're happy with today, and complacency kills.
Correct.
It does. It kills motivation. Complacency can kill you, and it'll kill and complacency will really kill a daggum culture. Because cultures, there's very few cultures that can't be fixed, but there's also very few good cultures that can't slip. And, you have to really be curious. Curiosity may kill the cat, but curiosity may save your culture and your organization.
Well, that intent piece too, like I think this is a hypothetical example, but if not, I'm going to use it as one. Like, I just want to build a widget. Oh, we're not tech people.
You're in the what?
Like, in order for this to be beneficial, I need you to want to have culture.
Yes.
In some capacity.
Yes.
Yeah.
And getting clear on like, what do you want in a year from now? Not like more money, not like an investment opportunity, not like what is the big picture? Like, and provoke people like in a year from now, I mean, it's just possible. Why not? You could arrive in May of 27 and be absolutely ecstatic of what you did in the last year. Why not? If that were to happen, what would have happened in place?
Yeah. How'd you get there?
How'd you get there?
Backwards.
Because now it like logically makes sense that this is part of the process, or bless and release if it's not, of course. But it becomes a logical step, like, oh yeah, logically, like this leads into that.
It's like
This was good.
Yeah, that's been really good. Greg, do you have like a final word that you would like to motivate people to get them up off their rear ends today to think about their personal resiliency and especially how what they do or don't do affects everyone around them?
Yeah. Okay.
whether it's rights.
Our people, those that are our subordinates, will unconsciously model what we do.
The storm is
Anyone that's parents,
a bigger
you saw your worst behaviors get played out by your kids, probably.
Oh, yeah.
Our subordinates will unconsciously model whatever we do. As a leader, when we show up in the organization, we have to show up fully in state as a leader. We are bigger than a leader. We are also a person. We may be a husband, a mother, a father. We're all children in some capacity, okay? We're bigger than just a leader. But when you cross that threshold and show up to play that game, you have to be 100% in the state of a leader. And I am here, like, almost in a mind frame of, like, I'm here being evaluated for the next X amount of hours. And, like, if this was going to be recorded, all of my actions, and played back as an evaluation, did I operate 100% from the state of a leader?
providing.
And ask yourself that before you go in each day.
putting it all on.
if it's hard to get 100% into the state of a leader. This is just evidence you're being welcomed on the journey to build more capacity.
For you.
Yeah, that's true. If anybody's interested in contacting you or seeing some of your products and some of the things that you do, your services, and I just want to contact you, what's a good way for people to get in touch with you?
Yeah, thank you. Social medias, I have a YouTube channel, Success After Trauma. Greg Pihs on Facebook, and howerinthepain.com is a website people can check stuff out.
Awesome. Well, man, I look forward to us growing our friendship.
Yeah.
Most importantly, our friendship, because I think I could care less, what our friendship brings to the business.
Yeah.
Now, I hope our friendship creates more friendships for both of us, because as we're impacting, we're impacting not for money. We're impacting for impact. How we affect people and the purpose. And that's the thing. Anybody can build the widgets. We keep saying widgets, but anybody can do the work. Anybody can do the IT work. Anybody can build the hospital. Anybody can do that. People come back to you as a customer and tell people about you on how they feel when they walk in and how they feel when they walk out, because everybody else can do this pretty much equally the same now.
Mm-hmm.
And nowadays, with everything being on, you can AI, and it's all going to read the same. But these parts right here are the things that, how good are you at the start? How good are you at the finish?
Yeah.
And I think that's, the important part. But we really appreciate you coming on today, and look forward to having you back again, and look forward to July and what you're going to bring to our current tables. We're having all our table groups, including the internal Dow Smith leadership group of 6 people that we're training as leaders from different aspects of the company, and actually having them come in with tables of business owners and with other business owners that we're inviting. We're hoping to have about 30 invitees there, and but we don't want to just come in and sell them a product. We want them to see what happens at a table group.
Yeah.
And everybody struggles with resiliency and the lack thereof, and everybody struggles with fear. And Bruce Springsteen had a song that said back in the 80s, and on one hand Billy tattooed the word love, and on his next hand was the word fear, and in which hand he held his fate was never clear. So every time somebody mentions fear, I think about that line, because I love that song. It's on the Tunnel of Love album, and
You should have sang it a little bit.
I've already sang.
He'll break out into tune.
I broke out into some song at our last one. But no, I really appreciate it. And, there's a lot to think about. And out there in YouTube land and podcast land, you got to continuously work on yourself. And you can't have a good organization if you're not, if you're not comfortable with yourself.
We need part 2, 3, 4. I want to dig more into it.
Yes, we do.
I'm excited for the event too. I know it's going to be huge.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Holley. Thanks, Greg. Man, appreciate your time.
Thank you for listening to the Irresistible Workplace Initiative podcast. Be sure to like, share, follow, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review. We will see you on the next one.